Welcome. In this video I'm going to talk about setting up a rolling time lapse. So this is a project I've been working on for a little while, and I think I have it to a point where I can make a video of it. And this video you're seeing on the screen here is one I streamed about 2 weeks ago maybe. I streamed this on Facebook, and what this is it's a time lapse, but it's on a loop. So this was, I think, 25 minutes or so of a time lapse, and then after it plays it repeats. So the inspiration for this was like a weather radar, where it repeats. But instead of using radar images, it's using actual images from a time lapse. So the other day on one of my videos, I got a comment that said, what would be curious is saving the last 20 minutes of video rolling, so minute minus 21 always gets deleted, and having replay option. Any thoughts on that? You do mention the 100 megabytes you set aside. Thank you. Useful video. So the way I set this up was with my Skycam to look at the sky in a time lapse. But this could be used for security purposes too. You could monitor a doorway or a dock or something with it. And then you can have a short clip of video, time lapse video, as opposed to just the live video. So it was nice seeing this comment from CMOS. Was thinking the same thing I was thinking, so that's cool. So I'll close these up. So I have some instructions on my website, and I'll put a link below to that, and I'll also put a link to some of the hardware I'm using, and if you use that link it helps me out a little bit and doesn't cost you anything extra. I'll also put a link to my FFmpeg and Amcrest playlists. So I'm using an Amcrest camera, it's pointed at the sky, and I'm only using it for this time lapse, so I really want to change the resolution on it to be better for what I'm doing. So I'll go to video, and I'll change this to 720p. Because I'm doing this at 720p. I've done it at 1080p. You get the same effect at 720p, but it's less processing power. So I'll hit save down here. I have a quick link to my camera. I'll show you what that looks like. So this is the image on my camera right now. I'll close the camera interface and I'll open up a terminal. And this is kind of an advanced video, so if you're new to this and you're still trying to follow along, if anything's confusing to you, drop a comment below and ask. I don't have a problem with that, because I'll probably won't go into depth in every single detail of this. So these instructions are for Mac, but you could do this on Linux and Windows also, and I may make separate videos for those. But the first thing I'm going to do is create a RAM disk. So I'll copy and paste this into my terminal. And here we have TL RAM disk, and this is about 200 megabyte capacity. So next you want to create a download script. So you type nano rolling timelapse.sh, and then you paste this in here, and then you can change some of the parameters. So I've already done this. So I'm actually going to start this up and running, and then I'll explain it a little bit more. So I want to go inside my RAM disk, so I'll type cd space /volumes/TL RAM disk. And the script is on my desktop, so I'll type tilde/desktop/rolling timelapse/ I think it's also rolling timelapse.sh. So I will run this, and what it's doing right now is it's captured an image off the camera and it replicated it 300 times. And now it's going every 5 seconds, it's downloading a new image. So this will download image 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 300, and then it'll go start downloading 1, 2, 3 again. So it's in a loop. The reason I have it replicate to 300 times is if you set up the time-lapse viewing software, which is separate, you want all the images there when you start off. I'll explain it a little more in a minute. Okay, so in the script here we have the URL of your camera. So you want to have your username and password on there with the IP address. And I'm doing this with a Amcrest camera, but you could probably do this with other cameras too. You can search online and find out how to grab an image. So this snapshot.cgi grabs a JPEG image from the camera. And the image is in the resolution that we set up in the camera. So if you're filming video at 1080p or 720p, this pulls an image at that resolution. Next I have the frames per second here, and that's 60. And next is the time-lapse length, and this is the length of time between image captures. So if we multiply that, 60 FPS by 5, we have the image count, which would be 300. So this is 5 seconds. I liked it at like 10 or 12 seconds, probably a little better. It's hard to say. It depends on the weather and what the sky is looking like. But for this video, it's easier to do 5 because it will take less time. Next, I have a function here that downloads an image. This function here downloads an image, and what it does is it downloads an image and checks to see if the image was actually downloaded. So it does it in a loop, and then it downloads it to this file called temp, and if it's downloaded, it will then take temp and move it to the file name. So this gets past the file name. And temp does not have .jpeg on it. We're going to run an FFmpeg command later to actually view this time lapse, and we don't want temp to be involved with that. So we don't have .jpeg on it. So now this part of the script downloads an image, and you'll see here it says 003d.jpg, and then it has a 1 here. So what this is doing is it's naming it 001. I want these to be ordered correctly, so I put some leading zeros on there. The way this is set up now, you can only have 999 images. If you wanted to have more than that, you would have to add a 0 on the end to get, say, 9,999 images. So this downloads the image once, and this next part of code here copies it 300 times. So it goes, the image count we said was 300, and it cycles through that 300 times. So that will give you 300 of the same image. So now we'll go down here, we set the image number to 1, and we have a loop here, and we say if the current image number is greater than the image count, then reset it to number 1. So the image count is 300, so if image number is 301, we'll reset it to be 1 again. So this is how it loops through. Next, we define the current file. So again, we have the leading zeros here, and we have the image number. So this will be 001, 002, and it'll be .jpeg at the end. I'll say download image current file. So we're going to pass that file name. We'll pass like 003.jpg, and it will download the file and name it that. And this next line will increment the image number. And then we're going to sleep for the length of the time lapse. So this will be 5. So this will actually take a little bit of time to download. So this isn't perfect. You're going to have 5 seconds here, but it'll really be 5.5 seconds or maybe 6 seconds or whatever it ends up being. So that's been running over here in the background, and you can see we're on image 50 right now. So I'll open that RAM disk up, and we see the list of images here. And I'll scroll down. We're probably on, let's see, 54. Oops. So here's 54, and you'll see the size of these is all 67K. As it saves these, you'll see that change. You may or may not see it change, but you're going to see it change here. It went to 62. So the image it pulled down was easier to compress and is slightly smaller. So this will be completely ready to go when we get to 300 here, and then it starts back over, rewriting this from the top again. So that will just continue. And once you create this, you'll hit Control-O to save, Control-X to exit, and that will save this script out. Then you want to make it executable, so it's chmod +x rolling timelapse.sh. And I just put this in a directory on my desktop. You can put this anywhere. And now I have a couple of different commands to actually view this time lapse. The first one is to view the video without re-encoding, and this uses MJPEG. Because these are JPEG images, you can just turn it into an MJPEG video without any re-encoding. But this isn't really great for streaming. I do this for testing sometimes. So I'll copy this, and I'm going to open up another terminal, and I'll go back into that same directory on my RAM disk. I'll type cd space /volumes/TL RAM disk. Make that a little bigger so you can read it. And I'll paste in that FFmpeg command. And now we can see this moving. So you're going to see it's frozen here. And this is because that image was replicated many times. Once it gets in the full loop, this will continue and then restart again. So I can just hit Q to exit out of this. The next one here resizes the image. So you see here it says crop and scale. So what this does is this will take the image and resize it to, this does it to 1080p, but you could also change this to do it to 720p. And this is if you can't change your camera resolution, you can change it in here. And this is going to crop and scale it. So if your security camera is at a 4:3 ratio, this will crop it down to 16:9 and it will scale it to 1080p. So there's processing power involved in doing this, and I find it's better to actually change the camera resolution, and then you can use the third statement here. So I'll go through this one in detail. We're saying the input frame rate is 60 FPS. The type is image2, that's the format. Next, stream loop is -1. This means repeat forever. Then we have the pattern type glob -I, this is the input, is star.jpg. So if you remember earlier I said that temp file doesn't have .jpg on it. We don't want FFmpeg to see that temp file. That's why we didn't put an extension on it. Next we have -vf, and this is the video filter. And we say FPS equals FPS equals 60. This sets it to 60 frames per second. Next, I encode it as H264_video toolbox. So this is the Mac hardware encoder when you have an Intel processor. You could also change this to libx264, and that will work on any computer. But since I'm on a Mac, I want this hardware accelerated. And then we're setting the bit rate here to 10,000K. And then we do -R60. This is the frame rate again. And I can't remember why I put the frame rate on here twice. I may have had trouble with one or both. So one thing about FFmpeg is there's more than one way to do things, and sometimes you'll have a frame rate one place and then another. I have both of them on here. Is it needed? I don't know, but they're there. I didn't make good notes on that. So next, the pixel format is YUV 420p, and then we have the format is FLV, and here we're piping it to standard output, and then we pipe that to FFplay, and FFplay reads the standard input. So FFplay will play videos and such, but it's not as robust as FFmpeg. So what you can do is you can take your FFmpeg command and send it to standard out and then read it with FFplay standard in. So you can use the two tools together. So this will just play it to my screen, but you could pipe this into some kind of streaming like on Facebook or YouTube. I originally streamed this to Facebook. You could stream it to any streaming service. I have some videos on streaming things to a web browser. You could probably get it set up to go to those. I haven't done that yet, but I'll copy this command. I'll go back into my terminal and I'll paste this. There we go. If I hit F, I can go full screen on this. So we're still pausing a little bit. I hit Q to exit. We'll see what we're doing here. So we're at image 116. So to have this up and running, you need two terminals open. They both need to be in the directory that you're storing the images. And I like using that RAM disk because I don't want to wear out my SSD. If you have a regular spinning hard drive, you could do that or use the RAM disk either way. So the terminal we set up originally is downloading the files in a loop. And then the second one is running our FFmpeg command, which will allow us to view it on the screen or to stream it somewhere else. So I'm going to stop my screen capture. I'll come back in, I think it'll be in about 15 minutes or 10 minutes. This should be done and then we'll look at it completed. Okay, so you can see here it's writing the image 300 and now it goes back to 1. So now we're ready to view the time lapse. So I have the FFmpeg command ready to go here and I'm using the third one again. And what I like to do is wait till this writes an image, and then during the sleep time I'll run this. I really don't want to run this while it's writing an image to the disk. So I'll move this up. It just wrote an image. I'll hit go. Okay, so we have the time lapse here. It's in a loop. I'll hit F for full screen. So this is at 720p, so you're viewing it at the native resolution. So this is playing for 5 seconds and then restarting. Like I said, I like to do like 10 or 12 seconds. It works a little bit better, I think. So this would be every 5 seconds it took an image. We have 300 images. So 5 times 300 is 1500. And we divide that by 60 frames per second. And that gives us 25 minutes. So we have a 25-minute span of time in 5 seconds is what we're viewing here. So I had this up, I think the live stream I showed you earlier, I've done it twice. And it was when a storm was rolling in. So you could really see the storm roll in. As opposed to just looking at the sky, you may be looking at the sky before the storm, after the storm, or during the storm. This gives you that action. So it's a live kind of time lapse. It's, you know, within a time frame, it's always updating. So if this was at a lake, say you had a lakefront property, you could have this out over the lake and you could see the conditions of the lake, not only see what they currently are, but see what they were in the last 25 minutes. So I think this is a nice cross between a live cam and actually watching a time lapse that you record over time and watch later. So you could set this up for a security camera. You could say watch your kids in the backyard with it. You could put it by a loading dock or your front door. There are lots of different options you could do with something like this. I don't know how to do this directly with just FFmpeg. This is the only way I could figure it out, was to write all those images to a directory and then play that. So the FFmpeg is essentially just playing all these images in a loop. So to exit out of here, I can hit Q. There we go. And you could also save this. I don't know exactly why a person would want to save this when you could just save all the images and make a really big time lapse out of it. To save a loop doesn't make a lot of sense, but you could do that if you had some reason to do that. Now if we want to quit this, you can go over here and hit Control-C to quit out of here. And this stopped our loop. And the way my script works is it will start over again. I don't really have a way to resume from where I left off. In theory, that could be set up because we see we did 42 here. We could have it start up and write 43, 44, 45. You could change the script to do that if you wanted. But as of now, if I was starting it over again, I'd have to wait that 25 minutes again for this to fill up, and then I could start the time lapse. Now, I don't have to wait to start it. What I can do is I can start it right now, and it's going to create those initial 300 images, and I can go over here, and I can start this. And we're just going to see the same image until it rolls around to the 1 or 2 frames that have been written to the disk. And over the next 25 minutes, it will go from being static image mostly to the actual time lapse. There, you saw it maybe glitch just a little bit there. So that's my rolling time lapse video. I hope you can find this useful. I thought it was kind of a neat thing to do with FFmpeg and an IP camera. This may be complicated to some people, so if you do have any questions, please leave them in the comments. If you have any ideas of things you could do with this, drop those below too. I'd be interested in that. If you like this video, please click like. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I'd appreciate if you could do that. And thanks for watching. Until next time, goodbye.